like to thank you all for coming to tonight's public hearing. The time is 6:34. Everybody please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Before we begin, I just want to introduce the board. To my left, your right, we have Quinn, Andy, Bev, Betty Ann, Kristen, Mary, Tracy, Alice, and Robin is over there tonight as well, and I'm Richard Demko. So we're going to open up the public comment section of our hearing here, and we ask that you come to the microphone. Please state your name and address for the record. We will have about 2 to 2.5 minute time limit. So with that, first, public comment.
Is it a comment or a question about any of the line?
We'll entertain some questions tonight, yes.
All right, how's it going?
Good, how are you?
Good, thanks.
Name and address for the record.
Josh Beaupre, and I'm at 29 Maple Street right now. So I've been looking, admittedly, at a lot of things that are involving the education budget because it's pretty clear that that's been on a incline. And besides the point, I think just making a general comment, I feel like there's a lot in the budget, especially considering that there's mill rate changes, where I'm questioning what's being spent, and what are requests being made for. I think that there can be extra transparency, not only with things like budget requests, but I think individual departments actually explaining why they're requesting what money is important. I know that that's done through things like meeting minutes, but there's not many people here, and I know that a lot of people rely on things like Facebook. They also rely on word of mouth. Obviously, it's a town where it's pretty interconnected in terms of the community. But I find myself, who is pretty well in tune with being able to read things like spreadsheets. I have a decade of experience closing $1 million deals, Forbes list companies, and all that, and I have a troublesome time figuring out through the line items what is actually the money for. So if I'm having trouble with that, I think there could be maybe a synopsis breakdown or something put out to the public, for example, online or on Facebook or wherever else, that can actually detail what's happening. Because people that aren't attending things like the police meetings or other budgetary meetings aren't knowing where the purchases are going necessarily. So I know that gets released in time, but I feel like to maybe quell the lack of involvement in person, which I think is something to work on, which has its own challenges, I think that there could be an extra step with actually putting out there, where is this money actually going to go? Because if you look at somewhere like in Sonia today, the asphalt company opened and they got full trucks all over their streets filling up holes. I don't see stuff like that happening here. So I'm not saying that that's not in the plans, because I don't know what's going to be spent on what. But what I will say is that there seems to be a lot of increases because of things like increasing costs. But yet when we look at what's going to hit a classroom, what's going to hit a pothole, I don't really see anything like that. So I guess my comment would be that I hope with whatever way the budget goes that money is used in a place where it's going to get in front of somebody, particularly maybe a child. So I think that's something that I'll end with. So thanks.
Thank you. Public comment.
Laura Wilkins, 5 Cross Creek Lane. I actually thought today was questions, but I will make a comment. I reviewed a lot of the items on the Board of Ed, and Ms. Compton did sit down with me the other day and explain things. But every year, we're here with the Board of Ed asking for more and more and more money. And it doesn't look like there's any plan on how can they start reducing their costs long term. Like one of the items I saw is out of half of our teachers, 102 out of 184 are the top of the pay scale, as well as special ed. Are we looking at, after the 3 years, can we start hiring lower step teachers? And special ed is a long-term cost strategy. It just doesn't seem like there's any strategies to help our town, and it seems like on our town side, we keep making concessions and cuttings. Like right now, we need 3 police cars. But the Board of Ed is always complaining we need to have money for our students. But I don't have any students anymore. I want some town services. And then I asked Ms. Compton the other day, we have a lot of we have fees for, oh, here it is. We have fees for sports and extracurricular activities. It wasn't that much, but I had asked, why can't we start charging or asking for a modest fee to help incur some of the cost? Her response was, it was unfair to ask the parents to pay when they're already paying for taxes. Well, the senior center, we have to pay a fee, we have to pay for all the activities we want to do. The rec center, you have to pay for all the activities you want to do. Now, it may be small amounts, but every amount is going to help. Just like in my budget at my home, I'm constantly looking at ways to save. Am I happy with some of my cuts? No, I don't like it. But it's the only way I'm going to be able to stay in my home. And it just looks like every year the Board of Ed is so high. And then I asked a lot of people, you know, why don't they come? And their comment, a lot of on Facebook was, why bother? The Board of Ed gets what they want. A lot of people said, here is what happens. The first budget will get knocked down and they will lower it by maybe $500,000. Then we will have another vote after the teachers cry to the parents for the children. The parents will band together and vilify anyone who disagrees with them because it's for the children. And then the last vote will go through. So I understand we have to teach our children, but maybe there are cost savings. Like all the, let's see. For like all the contracted, not the contracted services, here it is. The building contract services and the vendors. Does anyone go through to say, you know what, let's call them, let's get bids? Is this getting done? I mean, it's worth it. In my job, that's what I'm doing this week. I'm calling vendors, I'm looking at different bids. You know, every dollar is gonna help. It helps our town people. So that's just my comment. I did have questions, but I'll see if I can get them answered later from the Board of Ed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello.
Hi.
So, Laura is correct. This public hearing, I went and I checked. This is a question and answer period of time. That is why the department heads are here. That if any resident has questions about the department's budgets, the residents can ask the Board of Finance and they can ask the department heads. That is why we made the second public hearing as well as the first public hearing. Okay, it's not just public meeting, it is the questions that they could ask. That was the whole part of that being put into the charter. Okay?
Yes. I did mention that if anybody had a question, we would entertain it. Public comment. Or question.
She didn't state her name either when she walked up. I'm Lou. Mike Rank with 28 Woodside Avenue and 174 Cedar Street. Couple things on just the first person walked in very vague on some of the line items. Actually, I want to bring up as well. Getting to the public schools, technology. I'm not sure what technology means. 103,911. What does that mean? Does that mean we're everything is on Teams? Is that a computer stuff? What is that? Because you know what we did do? Got rid of supplies, you got rid of text, you got rid of all of those other things. But I'll refer to this great thing about your mission, about the students and everything like that. Most of this is for the teachers, the salaries, insurances and all that. When you get down to it and you look at all the line items with the students, 0 increases or money taken away. So this is not about the, you know, and I'll call it the projected student enrollment from kindergarten through 6th grade, and I calculated by the, what you calculated by 1,518 people or students at 13,663 per student, or from middle school to high school, 542 projected students were allotting 14,358 per student. Is it for the student or is it for the teachers? That's where I get a little confused, because when I see the textbooks coming away and all of that, that's directly, how are these teachers supposed to teach without textbooks? Obviously, we're probably hiring the best of the best, because you mentioned the salaries are pretty up there, so maybe they got a special way of doing it with the technology that we mentioned. So I'd like to know what that breakdown is as well. And as far as the town budget, I see cuts all over the place. I'm with the woman over there, says the school board education, they don't cut anything. They need it, they want it, they get it. Every town department, I don't know who's the leaders here, done a great job. You cut. I could be a wise guy once in a while, and we had the flood and all that. I know Quinn on the outside and the fire department, they do a great job, the whole town. This guy falls down when he goes to get a boat out in the water. They left the rope behind. I bring it back to the fire department. Otherwise, I'd be here. They'd be looking for $50 for a rope. But you get my point. I'm just trying to make it like, is the school really trying to reduce some of these things, or they get what they get, like the last lady said? So think about when you look at those line items. Everything is it really for the student I talked about, or is it for the teachers? Because we're taking away from a simple textbook, whatever that may be. So that's my only comment. So I appreciate your time.
Okay, thank you.
I would like
So,
to talk to the school superintendent, come to my office, or we'll meet anytime, and I'll explain all that to you.
Explain it now.
Well, there's some conflicting things here as well per student. First, you started out with 19,000 per student. Now it's down to 13, 14. So, I also graduated from Seymour.
Yeah.
I'm pretty good at math. I'm glad to talk to you.
Oh, God. Did you want to ask her up to address it?
does anybody from the Board of Ed want to address anything that you've heard so far?
I would just like to say that any of you.
Microphone.
Okay. I would just like to say to any of the concerned residents, I see they've been doing their due diligence, going through the the board budget very diligently. I can tell you that our Board of Ed budget centers around the students, and we have to pay the teachers because that's who teaches our students. We have to follow our contractual obligations. And I also would like to say, like the $110,000, many times that's for Chromebooks and other computer software. Our Director of Technology is also sitting in the back. But I would be glad to sit down. Lauren and I had a good discussion. We ran out of time. We spent about 20 minutes earlier this week. But first and foremost, there's differences like with the per student tuition account in regards what it is and versus the DERG. That's the 19,000. So to show you specifically, it's confusing, but that's what that is. As far as textbooks, yeah, we still have textbooks, but also a lot of our programs are online as well. And first and foremost, we are about the kids. Well, we do have to pay the teachers and the administrators. But I definitely would be very happy to talk through any questions that they may have, and I do respect them. And I value what you say.
Thank you. Kristen?
Hi, I'm Kristen Bruno. I'm the chair of the Board of Ed, and I appreciate everybody who came out tonight. That's what this process should be about, so I think it's really important, and thank you. Just to be transparent about our process and how we built our budget, we had several budget workshops. We've presented to the Board of Finance. We took everything that was in this year's budget, moved it forward.
And
we-
reduced.
Right, moved it forward. We figured out anything new that had to happen for our students. We needed a library media specialist to maintain accreditation for the high school, and we found offsets. We cut other things for any new program or anything new that we needed, and then we found savings beyond that. So that's where we are and where we're at. When we look at a textbook making a bigger difference for a child than a teacher, I think we're not looking at the research. The research shows that the single most important factor in a child's learning is the teacher. The second most important is building leadership. So those, yes, those are the things we're investing in. Those are the things that make a difference to kids. If you ask a child why they like coming to school, it's because my teacher. We saw that. Teachers make a difference for kids. That's what we invest in. To the question about why don't we hire new teachers? When folks are hired, and remember, somebody on the top step could be 35 years old. If you come at, it's 14 steps to get to the top step. If you come out at 22 years old, you're going to hit the top step pretty quickly. When someone retires, when someone leaves, when there is attrition, we either look to say, do we need that position? What could we do with that full-time equivalent or FTE? Or we try to hire a new teacher. We went through a few years and there are still some positions where there's a teacher shortage. You can't find anybody to put in the classroom unless you can get someone with experience that wants to leave their district and come to another district. Last year we were able to hire some brand new teachers, and we're proud, 4 new teachers, and we're proud, young teachers at a lower step, we're proud of them. Many were Seymour graduates that wanted to come back and work in town. And if we cut, those are the people that are going to have to get cut, and those salaries don't stack up to a whole lot of savings. We have to go deep. I'm trying to remember if there were any other questions. Right. Thank you. Thank you. But I would add that 79% of our budget is staff. We are a human business.
And there's 2,068 students
Mhm.
in the system.
Right. A lot of people are
Gotta
here.
get a hang on this.
Hold on. This,
All right, I'm gonna.
this
sit
is
down.
not going. This is not going to be a total open forum. Okay, so we'll entertain questions when you come to the microphone, and whoever the question pertains to, we will call on that person to answer, and hand the portable microphone over to the person who's going to answer it. So let's keep things organized, and let's keep it simple too. So, public comment or questions, come to the microphone, state your name and address for the record. Okay. Whoever is, come to the microphone. Hello.
Good evening.
How are you?
Good. Teresa Conroy, 177 Skokrat Street. Thank you all for doing all this hard work. I know it's been daunting for you for the past few weeks. I have a couple of questions and then a couple of questions about the budget. I was wondering, can you tell me, does the town set aside any money for open space? Do we have an open space fund?
Is there anybody here from Conservation Commission? No. We don't.
We don't. Okay,
No.
thank you. Maybe it's something we can look into in the future. And recently we did the 100% veteran tax exemption that the state mandated us to do. Do you know how much revenue we lost in our budget for that?
Jason, do you have an idea of how much revenue we lost? Here, grab the microphone.
Who is this guy?
The tax assessor. Just state your name and title for the record, please.
Hi, Kevin Morowski, the assessor. Approximately 6.7 million was part of that permanent total disability for veterans. It's assessment.
Okay, that's what comes out of our budget?
No, that comes off of your
Right.
grant list.
But you know how much it would come break down to in dollars?
Well, that would be on the new mill rate.
Okay.
But I got about 187,000 on the current mill rate.
All right, thank you. Because I'm just asking, because I know we're looking at doing a senior citizens tax abatement coming down the road too. So seeing how this all fit in next year when we have another budget. Let's see. When I was going through here, I noticed on the Public Works, our potholes, I believe it says 15,000 we have in there, up from 10,000. I don't know. I mean, I know they put in their budget request, but I drive around this town and it looks like $15,000 isn't going to go very far this year. I would just ask if you could look at that and see maybe if we're going to have to put more money into it. You know, nobody wants to put more money into the budget, but our roads really are in a rough shape, and I just want to make sure that we're having the money up front that we can try to repair these things. One of the other things was under health. The line item is, what, the whole numbers there? Or just the last? 100, 440, 4170, 610, 871. It's the Valley Substance Abuse Action that was taken out this year, $4,000. Do you know why we're not a part of that anymore?
So there are funds that come in through grants that specifically address that,
Okay.
the opioid. Okay, so there are additional funds that are used to pay for that.
All right, so they're going to be set with us not sending in that 4,000.
Correct.
All right, thank you. It's just something that.
No,
No,
hold
no,
on.
no, through the chair.
Yeah.
We
Yeah, go ahead.
we are funding the 4,300, but we're using a opioid grant that we received,
Okay.
which is not part of the general fund.
Okay.
It's a special revenue account that's held separately, so we're gonna fully
Yeah.
fund their ask of 4,300,
Perfect.
just not through the general fund.
Okay,
So it won't impact the mill rate at all.
perfect. So next year we might have to put that back in?
No, we'll still fund it out of the opioid account.
Beautiful. All right, thank
Yes.
you.
There's much detailed, better detailed response. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Let's see, a couple other questions in here. I saw the salary for the inspector for the fire marshal. We're going up 136% on that. Line item 100, 420, 2230, 560, 12C. It was at 11,000, and this year it's going up to 26,023.
I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe that is the clerk's salary that is shared between the fire department and the fire marshal's office, if I'm correct? I believe some of that budget had to go back towards the fire marshal's office, right? Is that what that line is?
Yes, I'm sorry, you're speaking to the 560-120 account?
560120, yes.
Yeah, so that was, excuse me, that's the salary for the inspector, just to recap. And that is now 100% funded by the fire marshal, where in prior years it was split between two departments. So we're just reclassifying it, so it's completely under the fire marshal. It's the same salary with just, I would imagine, a 2.5% increase. It's for part-time.
So we lost the position then, or
We did not lose or gain a position. It's the same person. We're just
moved it over?
fully funding it out of the fire marshal line item.
Okay. And then I have a question on the, all these numbers. 100, it's underneath Office of Code Compliance. 100, 420, 2400, 565, 103. It's the Inland Wetlands and Blight Enforcement Officer, up 122.53%.
Yeah, so the blight enforcement officer is now a full-time position. The Office of Code Compliance also has a revenue line item, and a significant increase in the revenue line item as well. But that, to answer your specific question, that's blight enforcement is now a full-time position.
Okay. And then my last question, if I can, there once, okay. Back to the line item number 100, 420, 2153, 542, 105. salary emergency management director. It's 10,000 up to 20,000. And you all know, well, not everyone, because we have some new board members. So last year when we had this topic, I was sitting on the board of select persons. And I'm not gonna make a lot of comments here, but I do wanna pass out the minutes from our May 20th, 2025 Board of Select Persons, where the discussion was about the salary. We had the Human Resource Director go out, if you all remember. This is in the minutes. Chris Pelosi came. He explained to us how he came to his give us a range of $5,000 to $15,000 for emergency management director, and it's pretty clear in there how he came to that conclusion. Board of Selectmen decided to do it for $10,000. I know in the Voices on February 25th, it's stated in there that the actual amount of work is more, and the amount was cut last year due to budget constraints. It wasn't cut last year due to budget constraints. It was because we came up with this figure through the human resources. So I would just ask you to revisit that. You know, we do have a human resource person who went out and was charged to do this for us, and I think we should take his expertise on what we're doing here. We are, you know, we're in tough times for everyone. I'm a senior citizen now, and you know, I'm fortunate. I don't have to worry about money. Let's put it that way. But there's a lot of people in this town. 41% of this town are ALICE qualified, so they're living, you know, hand to mouth and not making ends meet. We really have to be good fiscal stewards of every tax dollar we have coming in. So I just appreciate all the time and effort you put into it. I'm not just up here just throwing these things out there. I look at it, and I just want you to make sure that you're looking it up for everyone out here in town. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Public comment or questions? Name and address for the record.
Esther Basha, 45 Canfield Road. I have some suggestions and questions about the education budget. To make it easier to read, it would be nice to have some sort of a chart of accounts that is more specific rather than vague, to detail what's in each account so we can better understand it. Education is like 2/3 of our total budget, so we really should look at trying to figure out how to save money there. I would also like to know, how do our students rate compared to the nation and other towns in the state? That's not written anywhere. Then I was thinking, how many of those students are special education students? So how much are we spending per special ed student? Is there any way to maybe get together with other towns in the area and put all the students from all those towns in our town together to focus on them to make it maybe cheaper? Is there any way that if you have skilled residents or retired residents that could help out to sort of lower the cost, but they could put in volunteer time, especially seniors, if they're available and have the skills, where maybe the town would supply would pay for the cost of any supplies or something, but maybe have a landscaper that can volunteer their time to do something, or a retired teacher can tutor or something like that to save some money. Also, if you really get down to it, maybe increase the class size. I mean, I went to school, we had 40 kids in the class. So instead of 20, maybe have 25 kids and save one teacher there. So if you could, it would be nice if somebody would be up here answering all the questions as they go instead of having to meet with them one-on-one. Thank you.
Would anybody from the Board of Ed like to address the questions there?
Yes, Thank you. In regards to the chart of accounts and trying to spell out more detail with the budget, if you want to see more, we will provide that.
I was just,
Yes.
if I could, so there's, will mean definitively. Kristen Harmeling, by the way, I'm on the Board of Education. I believe this is my third or fourth term. I was previously on the Board of Finance. So this is our budget document. And it's a 53-page document, and it's been posted on our website since the end of January. And after we go through the individual line items at a summary level, we have all of the detail towards the back. So for example, if you're curious about what's inside the legal services line item, you can flip to page 31 and you can see that there's an amount set for general education, there's an amount set aside for collective bargaining, there's an amount set aside for special education. And every single line item that we have has backup like this. So if you're interested in instructional supplies that are obviously the things that are in front of our students, you will see a line item for textbooks. If you're interested as to what's in the technology line item, you will see every software subscription we have. And they're even categorized by instructional software and operational software. There's definitely some things that, you know, a person who's not in education would have a question about, like, what's the BCBA? And that's the type of question that we really invite you to come to a meeting, reach out, send an email. But in terms of breaking down those individual line items, again, 53-page document, and it's up there on our website. Homepage has a button, $sign. You go there and our budget document is there. There are also a few documents that do illustrate some of our success stories, and our success stories are continually updated on the website, whether it's academic success, whether it's awards from being an AP Silver Star District, whether it's our School of Distinction Awards for both of our middle school, for both of our elementary schools this year. So there are so many documents out there, and it's hard to know the format that every individual would want to see those documents in. So if you have trouble finding something or a piece of information, please send an email or come to any meeting. But definitely there is more detail in here than I think most people think we have put out there.
Right, I think that some of you were just looking at the PowerPoint presentation. Okay, well, we'll be glad to try to break it down even more. Okay, that makes sense. In regards to the accolades, be very proud, Town of Seymour. What an outstanding year we have had, and for the past several years. As she just mentioned, both of our elementary schools were schools of distinction, recognized by the Connecticut State Department of Education. Also, we were recognized again as by the U.S. News and Report among the best high schools in Connecticut and across the country. We received that in 2004 and again here for this year. In regards to AP, we've received this year Silver Award, which means that we have had outstanding scholars. The year before was bronze, and we've had 3 straight years of being recognized by the Advanced Placement Honor Roll. So what an accolade for our school district. So I just want to share that. We've had also our administrators recognized. Also, what's most important, where are our graduates going? Whether it's a career and technical road, a career pathway, or where it's college. Our valedictorian last year was accepted to Harvard, MIT, and also Yale. Our valedictorian this year has been accepted to Yale. The year before, again, Yale. So all of our graduates have had an opportunity, the top students, to go to the top Ivy League schools. So can you tell me some of the other high schools around that have had quite this success? Yes, you can.
You come up to the mic.
I think just to your point, I think something other than awards. For example, I went to Killingly High School. We had an award as well for AP. We also had the highest dropout rate and the highest pregnancy rate in Connecticut. So the data is skewed. We can have every award possible, but unfortunately, I think your point was how many are passing their classes, how many are not. Are there performance reviews for teachers, and what does that look like? So I do resonate with where you were going with that. And I just wanted to.
Also, our special ed program, we have over 300 students. We prioritize our kids with the budget. And I'll let Ms. Bruno talk about that.
Yep. I can talk to your question about special education. I know the state rate is about 20%. If you give me your email, I will find out Seymour's rate and share that with you. But I just want to talk, and I've worked as a school psychologist, special ed administrator, so for about 26 years. So I can share with you that special education encompasses everything from preschoolers who are a little bit delayed in their development across the 5 developmental domains, up until throughout all of elementary school, middle school, high school, kids with attention deficit disorder, kids with autism, kids with learning disabilities. There are 13 categories of eligibility in the state of Connecticut. It includes high school, and it includes students from 18 to 20. It used to be 21. The state changed it. It's now 22 years old that need to work on transition services. That could be workplace, that could be leisure, anything that they need to live a meaningful life for 18 to 21. Part of special education is planning, and that is done through a team. So the team has to convene. The team is made up of parents. It is made up of educators that work with the child, and they develop the plan. So what are the goals the child's working on? What are the services? Part of the charge and part of the special education law is kids have a right to be educated with what we call their non-disabled peers. So as close to the general classroom as is appropriate for them is the goal, is what we need to work for. So we can't just take all of the special ed kids and put them somewhere regionally. We work really hard to educate kids in their home school, with their friends, with their neighbors, where they belong, so they can build the largest and most wonderful life that they can dream of. So that is special education. There are kids that we can't meet their needs in district. And I think also the more we reduce programs and supports, the more kids that we can't meet the need for, and then we have to look at outplacements. And there are regional outplacements and there are private outplacements, and we're required to pay for that tuition, and we're required to pay for the transportation to get them there. So we're always looking to see how do we have the best outcomes for our students, and how do we do it most efficiently. Any other questions about special ed? Please give me your email. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Public comment or question? Public comment or question? Hi, Jack. Come on up to the microphone.
Kristen, you can get that microphone back. I want to start with a question. I do have something I wanted to say, but I wanted to start with a question. Jack Kwiatkowski, 9
Yes.
Amber Drive.
Thank you.
I heard something the other night here about a state minimum budget requirement, something about where we stand in relation to it. Where do we stand in relation to it this year, and then what about for the proposed budget? Can you explain what that all is?
I don't know if I'm the best person to explain it. There's not a set figure. It's a calculation of our budget.
And there's a
Yeah.
formula.
So where do we stand in terms of what they say we have to be at?
We haven't looked at
I think what you might have heard was someone was showing a chart of where our per pupil spending fell in relation to surrounding towns and in relation to our district reference group, which is a DIRG. And someone did say something about where we're falling on mandatory minimum funding, but that wasn't, it shouldn't have been cited in connection with that chart. So there are 2 charts that are in the budget presentation that we gave to the Board of Finance a week ago Monday, and they showed our district level per pupil spending at about $19,000. There definitely were numbers like 13 and 14,000 floating around. I can't speak to where they came from, but our official number from the state is about $19,000, and we are lower than most of our surrounding towns, and we are on the lower side even of our district reference group. Is that this year's or last year's?
It was under this year's.
Okay, we'll have to look into that because there are different ways to calculate, but the official state number is about $19,000, and that is lower, as I mentioned, than the surrounding districts. What a minimum budget requirement is a state law that says a town cannot fund education to a level that is lower than what they funded it in the prior year, unless there's been a decrease in enrollment to a significant degree. By 1 or 2 children, that's not going to change it. So there have been times in our history where we have had a 0% increase. We had a 0% increase fail at a budget referendum one year. And that's when the conversation about minimum budget requirement really became salient and relevant, because there was talk about the Board of Finance cutting it further. And if we go below the mandatory minimum state budget requirement, the state starts docking us what they will give us in the ECS grant. So it's almost a double whammy. But I think in the context that someone referenced it the other night, I think they were misspeaking.
All right, thanks for that answer. Regarding the entire town budget, I think the town side of the budget, which is just under 3%, is very, very good. It's very in line with inflation. I think Anne Marie did a great job on that, and paying a lot of attention to the detail. I'm concerned about the Board of Ed budget, which is requested to be 4.7%. The Board of Finance has a responsibility to all the residents of Seymour. I think Mr. Rehnquist mentioned we have 2,000 some odd students, and Anne Marie had mentioned we have, I think, 17,000 or so residents. So I think the Board of Finance has a responsibility not just to the 15% that are part of the school community, but to the other 85% that another woman mentioned are having a hard time with their finances, the average citizen. So I think that you need to also protect the interests of that other segment of our population, the 85%. I was hopeful with the addition of 3 new Board of Finance members this year that things would change, that we would not go through this exercise as we've done in the past few years, and that we'd present a budget to the voters at the referendum that could be acceptable and might even pass, rather than putting out a number that just is not going to pass. Because we've been down this road year after year after year. We go through multiple iterations of the referendum. This past year, many of us were hit with a double-digit percentage increase in the taxes because of the revaluation. In 2 or 3 years, once the new school is built, we're going to have to start paying off those bonds. And that's going to be another hit to our tax rate. So, you know, according to the federal government last year, people on Social Security got a 2.8% increase. That's what the government measured inflation at for the past year. So I'd like to ask the Board of Finance, and particularly Mr. Chairman, explain to us why you feel it's acceptable to offer a budget that's going to come out with a tax increase that's more than double the rate of inflation. Explain to us why the Board of Ed's request of 4.7 should be granted, given the inflation rate of 2.8.
Okay, so first, I do understand your concerns, but this is a collective effort up here. And when we go through the budgets, we go line by line. We look at what the needs of the town are. We look at the needs of the Board of Education, okay? When it comes down to it at the end of the day, we all give our input as to what we believe is needed in order to move the town forward and continue to educate our students on a high level. Okay, so, I mean, that's really where we came up with deliberation-wise, the 4.7% for the Board of Education. Unfortunately, we had to make some adjustments there because they had to absorb $180,000 in a shared service payment. So we started at the Board of Education with a 4.3 up here on the Board of Finance as their starting point because we had some health insurance savings. Okay? We figured we needed to put that $180,000 in there to cover their part of the shared services agreement, which brought it back up to a 4.7. Now, when we all discuss a budget up here, and we all give our collective input as to what's happening, okay, we tend to send the budgets out where we feel as though that, okay, this is what we need. This is what we need to progress the town and to move things forward. And we leave it up to the people as a whole, the voter electorate as a whole, to come out and say, okay, we don't like this, or we do, okay? And that's how we've been doing this, okay? So, I don't really know what else to tell you. If you have any specific questions or ideas, as to what you would like to see cut. Yeah, Andy, go ahead.
You mentioned new finance members, and I am, and I've been a resident of, well, I built my house in Seymour in 2006, didn't live in it for about 11 years, but didn't have kids in school, paid property taxes. We went through a reval recently, and my taxes are going up $2,000 a year on my house, okay, which is not good. And sitting on the Board of Finance and meeting everybody, I've been on the Bungay School Committee for 2 years, so I do some projects at the high school. My kids are 5 and 8 years old. They go to the schools. The one thing I've learned about this town, especially just having my kids here, my wife's from California, and she was like, oh, she loves the schools, loves the teachers, and I'll get to my point in a minute. But just from what I've been able to see, our school system is a gem, right? And and when you look through the budget, if everybody, I encourage you, if you break down what's going on in Seymour right now, all of our increase, this $3 million a year, is for contractual, increase. For the most part, it's contractual increases for teachers, for their health, for town employees, and most of it's baked in. And that's the situation that the town is in right now. And I can tell you, next year, it's going to be the same way. And I don't see, we had some, tough meetings and asked and said, hey, if we take your budget down, and again, I think, deal with Dr. Compton, I know, she's a straight shooter, they're like, we're going to have to cut teachers. And I think, number one, whether I paid 11 years here of taxes and I didn't have kids, and I don't want to see that happen, right? Because our schools, especially with our property values and everything we have here that's really good, that's helping all of us. It's a double-edged sword because our property taxes are high, but our housing values are going up, right? So we don't have necessarily, in my opinion, we don't have a spending problem per se. I don't think so. We went through these budgets, and asked a ton of questions. We have a revenue problem in this town. We have if you look ahead in the next couple of years, we're going to be going through this exercise every time. Every year it's going to be like this. And when you talk about cutting supplies, and 2 years ago, my wife has to start sending supplies, which we're happy to do. We send our kids to school with supplies at Bungay School, which is an amazing school, but I'm like, oh, we got to buy our supplies this year, okay? So what's happening is we're in a ditch. And you look at the unions, and maybe that's something we've all talked about, and we got to get more involved in that, and try and see what's going on. But then you look at it as like, those are market rates, right? Teachers from all these other towns, and I talked to 2 other people. One of my friends is on another finance board in the Fairfield County area, and I talked to somebody else today. They are all going through the same stuff, And my family, we've got property in Derby. My property taxes are going up on one house by $4,000, on a duplex. So I think from a Valley perspective, from a Seymour's perspective, we're not alone, right? But it's great that everybody's showing up here tonight, but I think the mayor and Kurt and Jason and everybody, I know behind the scenes, they're working on what is our economic development plan, and how do we get it out there, and how do we get together as a town to start getting more 55 and older, stuff in the town, and stuff that's going to bring in property tax and maybe some, light commercial, or, to me, I just want to give you my perspective as a new member. And I've said it on the podium before I was even part of this. I'm like, we can't just sit here and watch, our expenses that are a lot contractual, and most of it is what it is, that we can't control. We have to do something proactive, to counteract that. And that's going to take everybody in this room to go out and start getting involved, coming to these meetings, coming to planning and zoning, and supporting growth in this town, which we've been talking about. And there is stuff that we can grow, and I'm guilty. Before I saw this, I'm like, off doing my business and my life and all that. And I'm like, man, I wish I started to, speak up earlier and get all my friends to come speak up earlier that love this town, because that's what needs to be done. I just wanted to give you my perspective as a finance board member, and I was in, executive finance positions for 25 years. I've looked at a lot of budgets, and, my first thing when we talked a couple weeks ago, I'm like, if this was private, there'd be salary freezes, we would be, distributing a lot of the healthcare cost off, and we can get this to zero, but we're not, as a municipality, we're not in that position. We can't do it, So I think when you boil down the big changes, and if you look at the reconciliation from the Board of Ed, it is salaries, which are contractual, and healthcare. And we're, you know, I'd like to have more. My kids are in Little League. I'd like to have us be able to have a ton of money to give to Little League and, you know, all that stuff. So I just wanted to tell you what my perspective is and what we have to do. And it's on all of us to get people out here to start changing things. And, you know, everybody talks about Shelton. Shelton's got low property taxes, right? I mean, I have property in Shelton, and my taxes are on a building are half of my house, right? But they've got their problems too, you know. But Seymour's a nicer town, and I think, you know, if everybody could start speaking and getting involved, you know, there's a bright future ahead. Because I'd like to live here, you know, until I die. So I just wanted to say what my perspective is on a new member.
Thank you. Chair will recognize Kristen Harmling.
Thank you, I appreciate it. I wanted to just make sure that nobody walks away thinking that only 15% of our residents in Seymour are impacted by the schools. So that might be the number of children we have in the schools, but they all have parents. So it's probably closer to 15 or 20% that are involved in the school. And then you've got a whole population of people who are looking forward to having children here. So the schools most certainly serve more than 15% of the public. And even if you don't have children in school, you benefit when children are engaged in school, because it means they're at school, not being truant, not being delinquent. It means they're playing sports. I did want to respond to the one question about why don't we push fees for sports and activities to parents. We have considered that as a board. That has absolutely been on the table for us. And there's two things. Number one, it doesn't raise as much money as we think it would. And number two, it's an equity issue, right? Every child needs to be afforded an equitable education. And so if we start charging for activities and charging for sports, we're closing a door to a child who might either not be able to afford it or would be too embarrassed to ask for that kind of help. So when we push fees back onto parents, as was mentioned last year, one of the things we cut was about $60,000 in supplies, and lists went home for parents to send in. So we do those types of things judiciously. The second thing I wanted to mention was just very quickly, yes, our budget increase is more than the rate of inflation, but that's because the things that we have to pay for are higher than the rate of inflation. So you've heard us mention 79%, is that the right number, of our budget goes to salaries, to personnel, salaries and benefits. Well, if we have 310 employees and health insurance rates go up 9.9%, there's no way we can come in with a request that's at or below inflation. So if we were running a household and we were hit by inflation at about a 2.4 or 3.4 rate because we're buying lots of groceries and paying for electricity, which we do, maybe we could stay within the rate of inflation. But when something like health insurance, which we provide for all of our employees if they so choose it, is going up 9.9%, rate of inflation just won't cut it and make us not have to cut into services. So, thank you.
Okay. Public comment or question?
Rich, if I could just make a quick comment.
Quinn, yeah, go ahead.
Just really quick, and I know last night at deliberations, we did explore some options as well. There was some talk about considering that there is a contractual agreement between the town employees and Board of Education, that the possibility of exploring layoffs was mentioned as well last night. So we are looking at everything, considering.
I just have a comment to what you had said, that your board looks at progressing the town to move forward and you don't want to cut teachers. But we're cutting essentials for our town. I thought they mentioned we need a fire truck, we need a generator. All of that runs our town also. So yeah, maybe you have to get rid of a teacher, but you also need to do our infrastructure. Our education is not just the only thing in this town.
When it comes down to anything individually with the Board of Education that is not within our scope, we cannot tell the Board of Ed how to spend their money. We give them a bottom line number, and it is up to them to do what they need to do with it. So when I say progressing the town, I say progressing the town where okay, we need X amount of money to cover salaries on both sides of things. When I say the town, I'm not saying town versus Board of Ed, okay? When I say the town, it's a whole, okay? We need to move our education forward. We need to move our town forward. We need to cover salaries. We need to cover benefits, okay? We also need to cover pothole repair. We need to cover our emergency services. I mean, see, these are some of the things that we would end up having to look at, and we don't want our townsfolk to suffer with making cuts to the services that we need, you know? And so, again, when we're looking through this whole budget, we are looking line by line and saying, okay, this is contractual, we can't touch that. This is not contractual. How is this going to impact our community? And that's what we look at. I mean, sure, we can make $1.5 million cut right now by getting rid of garbage, okay? That's one of the most talked about things on Facebook. If we eliminated garbage and put that on the residents, it's going to cost our residents more than it would out of their taxes, okay? You want the police to be available and be well equipped whenever you need a police officer, God forbid, okay? You want a fire department to come respond and to have the equipment that they need to respond to things, okay? But these are all the things that we have to look at when it comes down to us as a board collectively, okay, and say, well, it's probably not a good idea to cut those things because that's the stuff that our residents need. And unfortunately, just like all of us in this room, we are all paying more. The municipality is not immune to that, okay? Our increases in the town are going up as well, and we have to take that into consideration as well. So just to elaborate a little bit more in regards to how we do this, okay? We just don't sit up here and say, okay, this budget's too high, what are we going to do? And just cut things because we do. We don't like to make arbitrary cuts. Even though we can't tell the Board of Ed how to spend their money, okay, when we go through this budget, we look at things in their line items to justify our arbitrary cut if we have to make one. So just to kind of explain that a little bit further. Any other public comment or questions? Please come state your name and address at the microphone.
Just to follow up on the couple comments that were made. Just want to make sure I get this right. One thing I want to mention about some of the budgets. I think we're pretty smart, but no one is allocating any money for some fuel. I wanted to make some fuel prices going up. 3 months we'll be looking for moving money around for fuel for every department that's out there, so everyone has a zero budget increase on that. So just a reminder, I might want to take a look at that. But again, I kind of just lost my thought on where I was going with that. The insurance. We talk a lot about insurance, and again, I want to repeat one thing. I am not here to reduce heads in any department. Like I said, I voted for the Bungay School. I was part of when I went to Prospect regionalization for Prospect and Beacon Falls. I vote for everything for the kids. Everything is for the kids. I'm not a cheapskate. I don't care less other than, if you want to go increase budget and you want to lay off teachers, it's not on me because others got raises. You want to lay off 1, 2, or 20, that's on you. That's on that board. That's not on me. I'd rather give less increases and keep everybody employed. That's my point. But insurances. My point is there's an insurance number here. What are the options on insurance? How many different options were out there discussed to go and reduce that? I'm not telling you how to spend your money. A lot of comments on that. But what were the options to select proper different types of insurance? I work at Sikorsky Aircraft. There's like 6 different options that you can choose from. High deductibles and all that. You know what? High deductible is great for me. Why? Because I put it in and I get interest on that. I don't use it. It rolls over. Some people pay insurance and it's done for the year and you start all over. what were the options discussed for any insurances, if any? Or you just said, I'm with State Farm, whatever they say, I'm gonna go up, oh, it's a 9% increase, so let's just sign up because, you know, we do business with them. What were the options discussed, if any?
Jason, would you like to take that?
Let Jake about the state partnership plan, which we both have.
Yeah, just give a little overview on the state partnership plan.
Let Kurt. We both have the same insurance plan, the town and the Board of Ed.
Yeah, so probably 12 or 13 years ago, we got the town and the Board of Education together on the same insurance plan. The Board of Education was the first group to go to the high deductible plan. The town followed behind that a few years later. Once that happened, we were able to get everyone together. We use a broker every year, and the broker goes out and actively shops the market for health insurance. We had a terrible history of loss ratio for a couple of years. Your renewals are based on loss ratio. Insurance companies like to see loss ratios that are in the 90s, because if they're in the 90s, then the insurance company itself is actually making some money. The problem we had is we had years where we were 110 or 120%. That means they were paying out more in claims than we were paying in premiums. So the only way the insurance company can make up for that, obviously, is jacking up premium costs. We had years where we were getting renewal rates of over 30%. So the broker goes out, the broker actively shops the plan. Because of our track record of loss history, 2 years ago, we ended up in the Connecticut Partnership. Connecticut Partnership is a collaborative of towns and cities across the state of Connecticut. It's a plan that's managed by the state of Connecticut. So your risk is spread out over several different communities. The rates are broken up by counties. So we fall into New Haven County. Different rate for New Haven, different rate for Fairfield County. So that's where we are this year. Even though we're in that plan, when you sign up for the Connecticut Partnership, it has a 3-year window where you're not allowed to leave. If you do leave, you would have to pay some type of penalty to get out. Even with all of that, there was no value to moving because the prices that we were getting in the open market were substantially more expensive than the rate that we ultimately got. Initially, our first quote was at 13.5%. That's the number that the state put out. Then they reduced that number, and then the county of New Haven also got a discount for whatever reason, the state's calculations, and that's how we got to a renewal of 10%. And then from there, it based on, why is our number at 9.9 and the Board of Education's number is slightly over 10? Because then you have to apply those new rates to the individual employees. And based on whether folks are switching from single to married to single to family to double, so on and so forth, or employees who opt out, they get a payment for that. So we actually save money to encourage our employees not to take health insurance. So we actively promote that. So that's why the numbers aren't exactly an even 10% renewal. So the insurance in the town of Seymour is very actively marketed, not only the health insurance, but also our liability coverages, our workers' comp, everything every year is actively shopped.
Thank you.
Just one point of clarification, Mr. Miller. Thank you very much for that excellent explanation of what we do with healthcare cost. We provide compensation or a payout, if you will, for educators that don't take the coverage only if they were hired before 2007. So that is no longer part of the contract moving forward. So it only applies to people that are in our district hired before 2007.
Thank you. Public comment or question?
Jack Chirkowski, 9 Amber Drive. I just want to tell you, I think that you and Anne-Marie did an outstanding job of stating what your needs are. Nobody doubts it. I went through the same exercise for 35 years that you've gone through. I was a CIO at my company, and every year I would go to the CFO and the CEO and say, this is what I need to provide the company with the proper technology and to protect them against cybersecurity. And they would turn around and say, okay, we understand, but this is all we can give you. And it comes down to affordability. And I've said this here at this podium the last couple of years. You know, if your company gives you a 3% salary increase and you say, but my gas went up, my utilities went up, my taxes went up, I need 5%. Are they going to give me 5%? No. They're going to say, well, we're giving you 3%, and you have to figure out how to manage your finances. And I think that same thing applies here. You have needs you very clearly expressed, and you want, and they're necessary. Can people afford it? Can the town government afford it? Can the senior citizens afford it? That's the question. And do you want this to pass referendum? That's what it comes down to. You know, all of this that's being discussed here this week is terrific information. But the referendum comes down to one thing. How much are my taxes going to go up? Period. That's it. That is what people make their decision on.
Thank you. Public comment or question? Going once?
I'd like to make a public comment with a resident hat on. A little bit of a soapbox too, sorry. Kristen Harmeling, 134 Davis Road. Completely hear you and thank you for acknowledging that our needs, where it falls down a little bit is that we're not a business, right? We're not a business. We can't say to our employees, sorry, you're not gonna get an increase this year, you're not gonna get a bonus this year. We can't say, sorry, we're gonna stop giving you new computers because we don't have enough money for it. We're not a business. When we say need, it's actually literally what children need to learn. So it's an analogy. We use business principles whenever we can. And, you know, someone had mentioned, does the Board of Ed, does the town, do they always look for the best prices? Do they call their vendors, make sure they're getting the best prices? From the time I've been involved in this budget process, which predates my time as an elected official, the two business managers I've worked with, nothing gives them a greater thrill than getting a good deal. Nothing gives them a greater thrill than beating someone up on price. So the idea that we just accept a price that's given to us, trust me, that does not happen. But we're not a business. And so when someone comes to you and articulates on a line-by-line basis why they need the money and where they need the money, and it all funnels back to children. All of it does. Teachers get raises, they get benefits, market rate, because a satisfied, productive teacher makes for a good teacher. So the beauty of our town, Mr. Demko, you said it beautifully, is that the residents get to decide. The residents get to decide. It's not up to 7 people to decide what the town can afford. It's up to the people who vote to decide what they can afford. And that's why continually I've asked the question, just put us through as we've asked. And hopefully there will be people who are thinking more about just what is my mill rate going to increase? What's my tax rate? That's critical. Of course it's critical. I don't want to pay any more taxes. Nobody does. But there are people out there that are weighing the pros and the cons and that are making conscious decisions to say, I am willing to pay this more in taxes because I want to keep Seymour and the school system moving forward. So I thank you for the tremendous job you've done this year. And yeah, it's a beautiful thing that we don't have 7 people deciding what we can afford. We have, what, 11,000, Anne Marie, that could potentially vote? 11,000. Hopefully we'll get 1,100 of them out to vote. So, thank you.
Thank you. Did you have a comment?
Actually, I did have a comment. Betty Ann Peck, 184 West Church Street. There are more seasoned members on this board and newer members on this board, and we spend hours and hours going through, and we meet with every department. And those meetings are open, and we encourage all of our residents. In this past year, 2 human beings walked through those doors to listen to what the departments were requesting and looking for. And we're able to hear our comments on, well, have you thought about this, and can we do that? We work collaboratively as a board with the town, the entire town, including the Board of Education. And is it thankless? No, it's not, because we have an ability to make a recommendation. We are only here to make a recommendation with the best and the worst case scenario. I pay taxes, everyone at this table pays taxes, and my taxes have increased. But we do need an education system to draw residents. And as other people have heard before, yes, I'm in development. We need more revenue. We don't have any issues with spending the money. We need more revenue. How do we get that? We have to have attractive features of our town to get them here. And I just wanted to ask and plead to all the public. I'm not on Facebook, so whether it's Facebook or LinkedIn, whatever the social media content is, we're residents here. Everybody in this town has a voice, but not one person. I think there were 3 people total this year that came down and asked, while we vetted out this process, soup to nuts, and we vetted it again and again and again, and we worked countless hours. We were here till 10 o'clock last night. We're back again tonight. It's there for you. We're here for you. And if there's ever any one-on-one, because you can't come to a meeting that's conveniently arranged for all of you to hear other people's comments, make those one-on-one situations with any department. Our first select woman, our superintendent of schools, go to the Board of Education board meetings. They hold meetings individually, and they talk all year long about how they're going to change the budget and what they're going to do and what they need. Go and listen to them. But when it's coming 2 weeks before or 3 weeks before, we're going to have a referendum. Now you're going, well, gee, I don't know what's going on. It's very frustrating for me as a citizen that you can't come, ask the questions ahead of time. And there have been a couple of people here that have done that. So it is up to you as citizens of this town to not come at the last minute and say what's happening, because we're here doing it for you, all of us. And yeah, we got a raise too. We got a 3,000% raise of 0. But we're not complaining about it. We're here because we want to be here and we want to help. And it is good to see new people on this committee. But the situation doesn't change when it comes to dollars. And if you want to know what's going on, be here, be with us. See what's happening. And I think that it will help expand the knowledge base quite a bit. Thank you for that time.
And to your, can I say one thing, Rich?
Thank you. Yeah, go ahead, Andy.
To your point, as a, C-suite CIO for all those years, and, the way it works going to the CFO and, being held to something, I mean, if somebody said you have nothing, you would be like, hey guys, sorry, no raises this year, and you're gonna contribute more to your health, right? I mean, that's like the first thing you do before you start cutting heads. And for me, it's like a little different here because we don't have that option, right? If we were able to say, hey, there's a salary freeze and we're gonna change the benefits around, we could have a 0 budget and we could take, $2 million and start to invest it in the town, right? Now we don't have any money. I'm a car guy. I've said it 5 times. I hate driving my car in Seymour in a lot of places because, I bend a rim or, hit a pothole and, but again, I drive home in Shelton and I have to start taking a new route because, there's a bunch of potholes there, right? So we're not alone. But I hear what you're saying, and that's the tough conundrum we're in right now. And, the only way, like, again, I'll beat a dead horse, but the only way we could do it is if people have ideas and people show up. We have to get the grand list up, and that's the future of Seymour. Like, we have to, nobody's showing up to these meetings, and they gotta come, they gotta have we gotta have development in this town. I believe it. I've lived in the valley on and off all my life, and we've got a gem here, few problems with, a little more landlocked than most, but there's stuff that you're gonna be hearing about that we could do as a community to offset this trend that we're gonna see going forward and start to, even be in the situation where we can invest in the town, because we had the discussion the other night. I think your next thing, if we don't have this, again, 7%, hey, I'm happy with 7% because it's a lot less than my reval, right? I mean, so, when you look at it from that perspective, but, we gotta figure out a path forward, as a town and a community and, make this place great. So I just encourage you to, again, talk to all your friends. When you see meetings coming out soon on this, everybody attend and everybody rally around and get us to the point where we could start fixing all the roads right and, you know, giving everybody what they need. You know, that's the most important thing, I think. So, that's it.
See Betty Ann's got.
I know, I had to. I forgot to say thank you to all the department heads. You know, you've got everybody here at your beck and call to pick at, ask, question, talk to. You're here, I want to say thank you for being here. Thank you to all the employees that have helped get us through this budget season. Talk to these people. They're here for you.
Okay, public comment or question? Sure.
I just want to reiterate that our meetings are open. They're usually the first Monday of the Board of Ed, the first Monday of the month at the middle school in the library. Walk straight in. We will be deliberating on the budget if we need to make any changes. I just want to say that it is not the Board of Ed's money. We don't think of it as the Board of Ed's money. We are not paid. This is my third night this week in this room. We're volunteers. It is the town's money. It is the taxpayers' money, and we're acutely aware of that. We are aware that there are citizens in this town that are struggling, and that includes children. We have a grassroots movement that was formed in our elementary schools to make sure kids have snacks and food bags to take home on the weekends. So sometimes school is the only place a kid gets a warm meal. The health care that they get is through the school nurse, that friendly face that they can go to. Mental health care, it's a place where they can feel cared for, where they can grow, and they can feel hope. So we're well aware of the needs of the community because of those families. They may be, the seniors are the grandparents of the kids that we see in school that hopefully that can come see them in a performance, can come see the chorus, can come see them on a field and see them play. So I just want to let you know that we are fully aware that it is taxpayer money and not our money. We do not get paid. And please come to the meetings. You'll see some really awesome students being recognized at the beginning of our Board of Ed meeting, and then we do some hard work making decisions. So please join us.
Thank you. Public comment or question?
Just an easy one. Just a suggestion from a couple of things I heard here tonight and from townspeople. When we look for the budget online, I know you can go underneath the First Selectwoman's to find the town budget, but then you have to go through the Board of Ed to go get the Board of Ed. If in the future, if maybe we can merge it into one area so it's just much more user-friendly to find, because people, they struggle with that because they'll say, I don't see the Board of Education budget. Well, you have to go to the Board of Education to go find that. So I think during this process, if we can do something like streamlining it, just maybe the information will get out there easier. And I do see our Recreation Department, Mary McNillis, behind me. I just want to give them a shout out. She does great with getting the grant money in there, and I think all the work that she's doing is really well worth it for our town. So that's my last comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Public comment or question? Come on up. I'll get you next. Thank you.
Diane Chakowski, 9 Amber Drive. I would like to make sure that the Board of Education knows that we are fully supportive of education. It has been a life's work for me, and I know that my husband also has a very strong feeling about education. This is not something that we take lightly when we're talking about it. I think the most important thing that I heard tonight, which really I knew this was a big portion of a budget, was when Christine was talking about the health care. When we made our budgets for our school system, that was huge. And that, just like what Kurt said, you shop around and you try to get the best price. And if you don't offer insurance to your teachers, they're not going to come. So that's that's something that's built in that you can't, I mean, you did the best. You went and got the best grapes instead of the, you know. So I want to make sure that that was really acknowledged, because that's something that is important. And of course, we know that the teachers' salaries are in there also. And if you put your salaries down too low, you're not going to get the best teachers. You really aren't. And when I was hiring, I tried not to hire a brand new teacher out of school because I'd have to train them. And I didn't have the time to train them. I needed them to get into the classroom and do their job. Certainly we helped them, but I didn't train them. Because going to school and getting your book smarts doesn't make you a good teacher. You've got to get into the field. So I think for me, hearing that, and I hope that the residents also heard that it was really, truly, to me, forgot about that, the insurance. So I want to thank you for bringing that up.
Thank you. Mary, you have a quick comment.
Yeah, I'm Mary Kruger, 73 Bungay Road. Really appreciating all of you coming out and giving us your ideas and feedback on our budget and where you'd like the town to go. So what I'd like to say is I'm one of the newer members of the board, and when I first had this opportunity, I was like, oh great, I'm going to get to look at the budget, and we're going to save money for the town and this and that. But once I got here, I really started seeing the challenges that we're facing. And I think it's a bad look if we keep cutting, because one of the things I know, I haven't had anybody in the school system for 20 years, but one of the things I know is if we don't have a good school system, my property value is going to go down and we're not going to be able to build this town up. I look at a surrounding town like Woodbridge. They're spending way more money than we are per pupil, right? We are getting good results because we have dedicated teachers, and that's why. But we're also missing a lot of coursework. Like this year, we're going to lose a science teacher. And there's all this focus on STEM, right? But we're losing a science teacher in order to get somebody in to do another job. So we've had to make a lot of sacrifices over a number of years. I heard we lost a French teacher. You know, I went to school decades ago. We had French in elementary school, and we don't even have it in high school today. So I'm just naming a few things that we've lost. These are really important things to create the value in our town. I'm going to also name, I had a business in town for 25 years, and it's mental health. But there are a lot of people in this town that are struggling, and a lot of them are students in the school. And some of those students used to come, I would do group therapy with them in my office. And some of them were so poor that we would do a fake raffle in the group so that they would win little things like cosmetics and hygiene products because their parents couldn't afford it. So even though I'm fortunate and my taxes are going to shoot up, and they shot up last year, I look at myself investing in the town, in this town's future. I also believe, of course, we can't continue to go up. We're in a tough place right now in this economy, you know, and the towns are taking big hits, and that's part of the struggle that we're in also. But I also believe that we have a lot of great plans in the future for building up revenue in the town, so I don't see this as an ongoing issue. If we can get everybody out there and build up more revenue in the town, we don't have to keep raising our taxes. So that would be the goal, is to try to stay level right now, to not cut things where we're going to be in a dangerous spot and look bad for borrowing money and things like that, and then increase the revenue. There's a lot of fabulous ideas the Select Women has talked about, and other folks in the town, for ways we can increase revenue. So we want to look attractive to people that would come in and start businesses here. So, and again, I appreciate you coming out. I appreciate how everybody is struggling in this economy. It's really tough, and I don't see it getting better this year. But I appreciate all of you, and I think it's a great community, and I hope more of you show up for everything. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you. Question or public comment? Going once? Going twice? Okay. I knew you were waiting. I mean, you know.
So I have a prepared comment, but I'm not going to say it. I appreciate everything you said, and I appreciate you clarifying what I was really going to come about. I really took.
Lori, could you give us your name and address?
Lori Pratt, God, that's old. 7 Peach Drive.
and lived at 9
Thank you.
for 20 years.
I really appreciate you clarifying that it's the taxpayers' money and not the Board of Ed's money, which is what you had said, which I really took offense to. This is the taxpayers' money. What I took offense of with you is honestly you saying that this is not a business, that you can't go in there like a CIO, because this isn't about a business. That's the problem with government, is that you think that you can just do what you want because it's not your money. You don't have to live within a budget. You can just say to the taxpayer, give me more, right? I need more. And I'm not saying that your requirements or your needs aren't necessary. I understand health insurance. I'm in a company. I pay $700 a month for my health insurance as part of my contribution to my health insurance. We all do. We all struggle, right? What I'm worried about is my elderly neighbor who can't afford basic food. She can't afford to feed herself. She is going to lose her home. Every one of these increases, you own 3 homes. You own many cars. You do not know, or you can't empathize with the person who's struggling, who doesn't have kids in school, who raised her family here, who contributed to this community. We have to think, when we go out with a 7% budget, how it's affecting everyone in this town, not just the kids. I love kids. I want all the kids to be successful. Trust me, I raised 2 kids in this town. They're both very successful. I'm very proud of them. They had good teachers. They had some bad teachers. And I would argue about the older teachers being the best teachers because I had one that called her a monkey. But anyway, and she's the highest paid teacher in this community. So her most favorite teacher was the young one out of college, Mrs. Brown, at the time. She loved Mrs. Brown.
She was awesome. I'm sorry.
And at that time, I think she was she was out of college just a couple of years. She was her most inspiring teacher. So I would argue with the most tenured teachers being necessarily the best teachers. I would also like to ask how the steps work. Because it sounds to me like you said a 22-year-old becomes the highest step at 35 years old. God, I wish I got to the highest part of my company at 35 years old. It took me, I don't want to age myself completely, but it took me many, many years to get up to a senior director level. Many, 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 many years. Raising children and taking a step back at what your own career goals are because you're facing your children. Everybody here deals with the challenges of raising a family, trying to meet the needs of your own family. And when your taxes are going up $3,000 a year, $2,000 a year, and I'm not just talking property taxes, I'm talking general overall taxes. When the state is hitting us as hard, when the electric company is hitting us hard, how are these families supposed to face a 6%, is that what you're saying, 6.9%? 6% increase in a budget? What was passed last year? 3.93% was passed last year, right? And you're telling me, you stated, and it makes me really proud because schools weren't what they were now when my kids were in high school. And you're getting all these accolades, and that's great. And you're doing it on a limited budget. We were told last year that if you didn't get your 7.9%, the budget would be devastated. It would devastate children. You're having success with what you have. It's not about the money. It's about how you use the money and the teachers, right? It's about how good the teachers provide the education to the kids, right? It's not necessarily about, I don't know what I want to say here, but it's not necessarily about the dollars you put into an education. It's that Mrs. Brown, the one that actually takes the time and cares about the kids and pushes them. And, I remember when my daughter first came home and she had Mrs. Brown, she's like, oh my God, this teacher's terrifying. I really don't like her. And within a month, she was like her favorite teacher in the world because she is she is the teacher that requires the kids to perform, right? And there's too many teachers nowadays that don't do that.
that just do the bare minimum, that the kids aren't successful, right? And the problem I have with the steps, and I understand this is union contract negotiated and can't be changed, and that's what you've got to think about next time you negotiate a contract, is that teachers should be judged on their performance and their results. They shouldn't be judged just because they've been a teacher the longest. They shouldn't get the highest salary just because they've been a teacher forever. My daughter, and I won't say his name, in 5th grade had a teacher that let them sit in math class in 5th grade and play video games. Never taught them. When she got into the middle school, she was behind all the other school systems. She was in Bungay, Chatfield, and Lupresti at the time, which were separate schools, were way ahead of her. She had to catch up because she had a teacher who didn't teach. But yet that teacher was tenured, right? He was here forever. Hopefully he was gone by now. But if we don't judge teachers by their performances and pay them accordingly, then we get crap out of our education system. And I'm not saying that, anything here about cutting anything or laying off any teachers at this point, but I really hope that when you negotiate the contracts for the unions the next time you do it, you take that into consideration. And also take into consideration the fact that when health insurance increases 9.9%, you should be able to increase the contributions of the teachers and their salary as well. So that's all I have to say.
I'd like to respond to that.
Thank you.
And before you take offense to what I said, my comment was directed at, this gentleman's comment in terms of in a business situation, this is a business, trust me, and I've said it 5 times or 10 times that from a business perspective, when we look at Seymour like a business, we have an increasing expense structure and we have no new revenue. So if it's a business, it's terrible, but my comment was only from a business perspective in that because it's a municipality, we are faced with a situation like all the other towns where it's all unionized, and we can't go in and say, let's cut, everybody can't get an increase, and we're going to change the health insurance. I just want to clarify, that was my isolated comment, not that this is not a business, because it should be operated where you can like a business. But that was what I said.
When a business doesn't get the revenue they want or the revenue they need, what happens?
Well, right now, I could tell you, my opinion, if we have to take this budget down much more, and you look at a $19,000, per kid, which is less than Derby, okay? And I was born and raised in Derby, and I could tell you, there was a slide here at another meeting a couple weeks ago that showed where we spend per student in the valley, and we're low, right?
No, I understand.
So I think our next step, right, if the budget doesn't pass, I would recommend, you know what? The transport station's open 2 days a week, the library's open 2 days a week, town hall's open 2 days a week. Let's not plow a couple roads during the snow, and let's lay off a bunch of teachers. I mean, there's nowhere else to go.
Well, I agree. I agree that there are struggles in this town, especially with education. And I would look to our congresswoman here on the state mandates and how we fight on these state mandates. The fact that you can't properly, we don't fill school buses, but we have to have a certain number of school buses. There should be the ability, and I know that's a state mandate, there should be the ability for a parent to opt out of the school bus so that we don't have empty school buses and we're not paying for empty school buses. The special needs program, they put all these mandates on us at the state level, and yet they don't fund them. So it's all on these guys and these poor people here. So where are you? I realize you're in the minority, and that's got to change in this.
Okay, hang on. This is a Board of Finance discussion.
I understand, but
Okay.
I'm trying to stand up for you a little bit because a lot of this is at the state level. That is
It is, and unfortunately, our state representative and our state senators are doing exactly what they need to do to combat a lot of this stuff. There is a giant state with a bunch of other state representatives and senators that don't see it the way that ours do. So I can tell you right now, and I am taking offense to this right now, our state representative and our senators are working very hard for the people of this town. Okay, and I'm not going to allow you to stand here and go nuts up here with our state senators. Okay, you talk to us if you have a constructive comment. You talk to us up here. Okay?
All right.
Nobody else.
Well, I just wanted to make that point, that I understand
Good job.
that you guys have, you all, I shouldn't say guys.
Excellent.
You all have, challenges. I understand that. But I also don't understand how, when we know these challenges and we face these challenges, why things aren't done in advance, like the contract that was negotiated with the teachers 10 years ago.
Yeah.
But that's it. I'm done. Thank you.
Okay. Is there any other questions or comments? Once, twice, 3 times, public comments closed. Thank you all for coming to this public hearing. It's 8:10.